Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It's a beautiful time. And if I told you that I know who is here, would you really understand that? So many times you have heard me say, I know who is in the chair, I know who is listening. There are no secrets from God. I am from the great central source. I am a piece of the whole, like you are. Because I've never been a human being, I do not have the biases that you do of corporealness or 3D-ness. But I have the love for you based upon the work that you're doing. Now, before we even begin, I'm going to alert the listener to something that those in the chairs already know. That my partner had a difficult time getting here today. Now, there is a saying that says, there are no accidents. The saying is a metaphysical development of the belief in synchronicity and co-creation, all having purpose. Sometimes when challenge happens, as it often does in duality, you might criticize it as being inappropriate or wrong, or even suffering. But there are no accidents. And so, my partner has said to me 3 times today, why? Why did he miss his flight? Why did he have to take a 2-hour bus to an airport he had never been to and get on a plane to a city he had never visited to be picked up and drive 2 more hours to be 6 hours late to a meeting? He's never missed a meeting. Not on this continent, and he didn't miss this one. But in the process of getting here, he asked why. If there are things to be learned, what are they? And why should he experience this and drag all of those in the room with him so that this is now a night meeting and it's almost 11 p.m.? I'll give you the answer. It's a metaphor and a lesson. It's not for him. It's for all of you. And I'm going to revisit this because it is the theme of this channel. The theme you've heard before. Things are not always as they seem. Here is the metaphor, and it is for the day, it is for the time on this planet, it is for many of you to see and understand. All of you in the room held a ticket for this event. All of you in the room, when you purchased the ticket, felt you knew when things were going to happen. Because of the linearity of how you live your life and the clock and what you expect, because of the protocol of what meetings are like, you saw yourself in advance here at a certain time during the day and leaving when it was over. You scheduled your time appropriately when you would leave, the drive time to home, all of that. And then suddenly it changed. How many of you were tempted to say, because it was not as expected, I'm not going? In this room, very few. But that's not the way it is in life. The start of this meeting happened after the time the other one was supposed to end. It wasn't just late, dear ones. It was over. And then it began. How many of you hold a ticket for something that you have been asking for a long time? You've paid your dues, dear ones. You got it in your hand, and then it didn't happen. I'm talking to a lot of you listening to me now, and both present and not present in this room. And how do you feel about it when the things have not transpired as you thought they should? In fact, it's gone beyond being late. It looks like they're not going to happen. The healing that has been promised to you, the associations, the business, your life perhaps. You come to this point and there's a change. And you're sitting there by yourself holding the ticket. And you don't know why it's happened. And here's what I want to tell you for this instance. I want you to notice what this metaphor was today. You were asked to wait. And it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. You were asked to trust that it would, and it didn't happen. And then way after the fact, or when it was even supposed to be over, there was still the chance it wouldn't happen. And then it did. For those in the room, in this tiny little metaphor, the entire meeting has now happened and you are at the end of it. And you can look backwards and you can say to yourself, I'm glad I didn't go home. You can say, I'm glad I waited through it. I had the ticket and I got what I came for. I want to make a statement to you that God loves you enough to honor the ticket. Maybe not in a time frame that you like or that you expect, but you wouldn't have the ticket if it weren't supposed to happen. Do not despair. These things are not always what you expect. Can you go the whole route? Can you wait even after the meeting was over to have what you expected? I'm going to get back to that. I want to review a little bit of history and fill in the cracks of the profundities of this shift on the planet that are happening. As I said last night, I have arrived in 1989, triggered by 1987 harmonic convergence. There's so much more than that. You began to change early, and we saw it. The harmonic convergence was a result of profound potential. When I came in, I gave you many predictions. Almost all of them have now resulted in manifestation. But they weren't prophecy. And I want you to understand the difference. You have today's technology which allows you to see a holy person who could predict. So what was the difference between a shaman and a meteorologist. And the answer is that the meteorologist could see it coming and tell about the potentials from a distance. In 1987, that's what happened. We could see it coming. And in 89, when I came in and began the channeling, telling you the shift is at hand, the battle is at hand, light versus dark will be what you face from now for a few years. You will have no Armageddon. The magnetic grid will shift and change. These were not prophecies. They were potentials based on a long range that we could see. We saw how humanity was shifting and changing in ways you could never see independently. For we had a picture of billions of souls all at once. I want you to understand that because of what I'm going to tell you next. We still have these potentials. We can still see what's coming based upon the same principles that allowed us to give you the first prophecies we gave you, which were potentials. We wrote about the Indigo Children because they were forerunners. Before the shift occurred, humanity started to change. The DNA actually within these children was different than yours. And it was different not in a chemical way, but in a quantum way. You're not going to see it in the microscope, dear ones. But you can see it in the actions and the consciousness that's represented. This was not a prophecy. We saw it coming based upon the potentials of human consciousness. Now, the Indigo Children, they represented a slightly changed human DNA that we told you was quantum. Based upon the magnetic grid shift, which is also quantum, and a consciousness shift of the planet. Someday you will see that human consciousness has physics and it is quantum as well. All of this to say one thing: they relate to one another, and we saw it coming. And it was, and it did. Isn't it interesting that more than 10 years before a potential shift on the planet, that the kids started to change anyway? Before December 21st, the middle of the precession of the equinoxes, way before it, the beginning of the shift represented in the children of the planet began anyway. I want you to pay attention to this, because this is the way it works. There is an anticipation factor. It has begun already. There are those human beings whose DNA is working above 33%, and you're going to recognize them and see them clearly. And some of them will take the form of children geniuses, and there's going to be far too many for coincidence. It's not a prediction, dear ones. It's a potential. One of the attributes of an increased DNA functionality is increased wisdom, increased intelligence, and the ability to see system resolution faster. Some of the Indigo Children already have that ability. Some of you are starting to receive it without having to come in again. That's what I want to talk to you about. What do you think calibration and recalibration is really about. Come on. Is that to make you feel better? How do you feel? Because it's not done, and you know it's not done. There are gifts being given to you right now, before the battle of dark and light has even actually begun. We are changing your DNA because you've asked for it, because you passed this marker. And the result, dear ones, is that corporally you are uncomfortable. This is all coming back. Did you hear me? How many of you lost your joy to live? Don't despair. The ones not in this room, necessarily the ones listening, don't despair. For that joy is going to come back. How many of you just have had a bad day and remember it and went into perhaps a minor depression only to have it all come back later? And in retrospect, you said, wow, I'm glad I didn't make any decisions when I was depressed. Well, I want you to think about that because you need to hear that right now. This is not the time for some of you to be making decisions. Not only is it coming back, it's coming back and doubling. And we've said that before. Your gifts are being increased because your DNA is going to work far more than 33. You know what 44 is going to be? Long before the Tibetans are going to tell you, I'll tell you. I'll give you a hint. 4 is indeed a Gaia number, and that is something to look at. Is there perhaps a link to Gaia that you haven't seen before? Let me ask you a question. Why are the cetaceans in the Gaia group? That's just a little hint. What is 4 and 4 together? Manifestation. What is it that you might manifest when you get to 44? I will tell you that. Peace on earth. That is the potential. That's not the storm coming. That's the sun coming out. I've never told you that before, did I? See, things are not always as they seem. Things clear. And I can reveal things that perhaps I couldn't reveal last week because the potentials are that much grander today than they were last week. You got a battle in front of you. And we talked about it last night. And the battle is of dark and light, and it's profound, and you're starting to see it on the planet. Now you see the faces, now it's given a name. Now you know how to fight it. Or do you? Or do you? My partner has mentioned to the crowds many times that it is time for good news on broadcast. That it has taken hold on what you have called the internet before. And that various videos go viral that are heartwarming and beautiful. Going viral, my partner says, means tens of millions of people see them over and over and tell their friends. They're heartwarming. They make you feel good. Stories of courage and heroicness, children doing things, the rescue of animals, animals talking to humans, all manner of things. We told you that it's time for this to hit mainstream television. I give you a prediction. The one who decides to fund this for the first time will have the same kind of fame that the one did who decided to start something called Google or something called Facebook. paradigms which had never been seen on the planet, and others told them nobody could do it, nobody would be interested, and it wouldn't work. And today you see it. Not only did it work, it has become a paradigm. The one who decides to fund the new Good News Network will go down in history as changing the planet. The one who had the insight and the vision to know how new humans are thinking and make a commercial endeavor about it. Make no mistake, I'm not telling you that there is supposed to be a television channel that is New Age or that has Kryon. Hardly. Just let it be like the internet. Let it show the clips and talk about the stories and bring in the people and discuss it. And it will attract tens of millions of people away from the news, away from the horror. And the first people to see that this is going to be working are the advertisers. That's why it's going to work. This is the challenge. The first one to have the courage to fund this, endure the jabs of ridicule and laughter as they move the paradigm of the planet, will be famous. There's someone listening right now and they're saying something, and I want to repeat it. Now, if somebody's listening now, I don't mean in the room. This is a hard concept for you, isn't it? That there's somebody in your future listening to this, and I know what they're going to say. Now, that is not prophecy, because I know who they are. And they will say, Kryon, this is ignorance and innocence, naivety. You've got this vast army building that is evil, that's given itself a name, that thinks nothing of murder on a grand scale. And you're going to fight it with videos of cute animals. That's not going to work, they'll say. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Oh, yes, it is. You don't know what I know. Things are not always as you think they're going to be or as they seem, because you don't know about the benevolence factor. You don't know how light can spread. When humans start thinking a certain way and how it catches on and almost becomes contagious, and what that does to other humans, what the broadcast of these things worldwide can do to regular humanity. It's not just what you think in 3D. Let me tell you how it might work. Now listen, you have an enemy in front of you. Do you want to know how to win this battle? Do you want to know how to slay that enemy? Don't kill him. Do not take life. Don't become them. Let's get smart. Cut off their funding. And you say that's impossible. There are too many with too much money who will fund them. Not if the population of the planet objects. They won't. The part of the population that's looking at the channel with cute animals. The part of the population that respects life and loves one another and sees the potential for a peaceful earth and what it might mean. What it might mean to the Middle East to finally solve. Maybe it'll take a generation, but to solve that ancient hatred. Cut off their funding. It's not going to be that hard because the funding has to come from somewhere. And that somewhere doesn't just sprout from the ground, dear ones. It has to be approved. It has to pass through banks. It has to buy things in order for that darkness to exist and fight. And I'm telling you, that's the source. Common sense will tell you that's the source. Now, I've just presented something I've never said before. The benevolence factor is real. It's an amplification of the light in human consciousness. It is infectious. For the new human will gravitate toward peaceful things, not toward drama. Slowly, you will see certain kinds of television programs reduce their population, their popularity. The advertisers will see it too. And they won't want to fund anymore programs that show people arguing for fun. Watch this. I want you to see something that is not a prediction, but a potential. Now I want to get back to the ticket. In 1987, you might say humanity purchased a ticket for a meeting. And the meeting would have a name: the New Jerusalem. And some of you know what I'm talking about. The city on the hill in peace. As goes Israel, goes the earth. And that is the focus. And that is the ticket that you have. Peace. And you've waited, and you've waited, and you've waited, and you've waited. And you were almost there, you thought. And suddenly it got worse. Not that it just get worse, it got funded. They can't win, dear ones, because you got a ticket. How long is it worth waiting for? And what are you going to do? Are you just going to hold it in your hand? Are you going to suffer through it? Are you going to be a victim, wondering when it's going to happen? Or are you going to hold it up high and say, we deserve this, and it's coming. Let's go. Let's figure out how to defeat the darkness. We'll start with yourselves, becoming more gentle to one another, practicing on a micro level what the macro consciousness of the planet will have to learn. How long will it take? How long will you wait? The next time you're born, yes, when you reincarnate, if this earth is not yet in peace, I'm going to tell you esoterically, metaphorically, metaphysically, when you are born, you'll be holding a ticket. You will come in with this attribute. This is what you're going to want as a child. This is going to be your passion, and everything you see around you, if it doesn't agree with this, you're going to fight it. And you're going to fight it with that which you know works: integrity, honesty, gentleness, compassion, action. It's infectious. That's the factor nobody expects, because it's not in 3D. It's not a prophecy. It's a fact. It's coming, and we see it. You've got the tickets. Don't put them away. Don't tear them up. Don't be discouraged. Hang in there. because things are not always as they seem. I know your name, and I'm proud of you. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This entire month, the subject of the channelings is about timing. We started last week this entire series talking about the planet. Now we get into something a little more esoteric, and then next week, a little more personal. These are things that I have told you in passing before, in other channels, perhaps with other subjects. We did a channel regarding past lives, and in that we discussed some of the things I'm going to tell you today, but not all of them. We're going to talk about the timing of your incarnations. Yes, there is. We discussed at one time before the actual process of your coming and going. This has been a subject of so much interest to so many of you. Until we get to that place that is very nonlinear and very unhuman-like, when we tell you that you've chosen your family and you get together as a group and choose what you're going to do next, and some of it is seemingly what you would never choose if you were here. That tells you what the mind of God is like. It tells you what happens on the other side of the veil that you don't have here. It tells you who you really are when you're not here. Again, dear ones, when you're on the other side of the veil, there is a mastery that occurs that is dynamically related to your lives on the planet. And that has to do with timing. What happens here in this lifetime will often determine the timing of the next. So let me explain. You come into the planet and you live many lives, and at some point in time, many of you start to awaken as an old soul. Not all of you, but many of you. And this is simply because you have spent so much time on the planet cumulatively that it starts to then mature you when you get back. So indeed, there are things you remember very vividly from lifetime to lifetime. And part of that remembrance, perhaps, is being here and knowing what to expect. When you first arrive, you don't know what to expect. You spend several lifetimes learning how Earth works. You do. And as you then come back and you come back and you come back, what you carry in with you is almost like a remembrance of being human. Not the particulars, not the gender, not really. But you have a comfortable spot of being human, whereas the first time you arrived, you had to get used to it. The second time, a little more. And the third time, begin to say, okay, that's who I am. That's all figuratively, not in your mind as a human. But that's what you see as you look backwards and you see these lives and what they meant. But now I'm talking to old souls. In general, I'm talking to those who have been here over and over and over and over. So let's say, as an awakening old soul, you have made some choices in this life. And they're choices that you never made in other lives. They're unusual. Perhaps they go even against your culture. Perhaps you have awakened and stepped out of the things that your parents told you should be in. Perhaps that your friends also looked the other way as you stepped out into that which is a belief system which you know carries more love and compassion and understanding and maturity and enlightenment than where you were before. And let's say that happened. And if it did, that puts you perhaps in a place where your life changes dramatically. Perhaps it even ripped you out of what you learned to do or did half your life or most of your life, and you find yourself now doing something completely different. I speak of my partner. That's exactly what happened to him. He did the reverse of what his family wanted, the reverse of what his friends wanted, even those in his business wanted. And he turned his back, figuratively, on an old energy where most of them were, and walked into a place where they almost all of them, looked the other way. To such a degree that he had to learn that they had passed on, months after they had passed on. That's how removed they were, by choice, from his choice. And many of you are the same way. Now let's say that happens to you. And you go to the other side when you pass over, as they say. And on the other side, can you see how that might change what you do next? Now, pay attention, because this violates the rule. Would that affect how quickly you reincarnate? And the answer is yes. And you come back in less than 3 months. Now, think about that. You have been told perhaps that reincarnation does not happen that quickly. This time it did, because you had to come back to be with something that could possibly happen in 20 years if the earth kept going the way it was. No one can tell you what's going to happen. But the trends are there. So we've told you that before. And so in you come again to grow up. So by the time you're 20, 21, 22, you can firmly be part of something. What if that something was a new government? What if that something was new healing modalities that you were perfectly fit for? Think about that. Now, let's do the reverse. Let's say that you pass over as an old soul, and you are there looking at what's going on, and you realize that there is a partnership that you had enjoyed all of your life or some of your life, but it was profound. It was an old soul partnership. And at some level, you're speaking to the soul of that partner, and the agreement is, we will wait until that partner also transitions. And we will come in so that we are in the same kind of an age area, so we will rekindle that partnership, and we'll put ourselves in the same area, so it is likely we'll find one another and continue where we left off. Whoa. And what if that takes 10 years? 5 years? You have just affected the timing of your reincarnation. You have no hurry. Dear ones, the timing of incarnation is almost completely and totally set by what happens to you now in this lifetime. And it didn't used to. In an older energy, it was more of a pattern. And you came in more of a pattern, certain number of years or months, more of a pattern, but not now. So you might say the new energy on this planet has affected even the things of the Akash. Even the things that you might not think were affected. They're more in your control than you know. And that is the best news I could ever bring you. A control of compassion and love for you. You now choose to continue your experiences so that you can help this planet the most. In the past, it was to continue experiences so you could help yourself the most and have different experiences so you karmically could be prepared for anything. And now it's a bit different. You are in love with this planet, and I am in love with you. Dear ones, for what you do, for what you're going through, for what you will do, on the future that we see on this planet that is light and bright, more so than you even think. I'm in crying in love with humanity. I've said that. Believe it. And so it is.
So just settle into your body. Take a minute. Take a breath or two. Feeling yourself connected to the earth. Feeling the own center of your body. And then feeling your heart center. Just allowing your thoughts to soften and quiet. And drop into your heart with each breath a little more. And let that energy just be a resonant place for you. And let it be a place of yes, of coming to yes for this day. Yes for what it took for you to get here. Yes for receiving the gift of each day. And finally, yes, that we have the opportunity to come together in a group, as a family, all of our energies intertwined so beautifully, so differently, and so lovingly in the presence of the entourage and Kryon that honors our human journey, honors our time together, loves us and surrounds us with wisdom and light.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Many have not seen this before. And in these few moments, I'll say again, as I often do, that the human brain goes through so many machinations of thought processes to verify. The situation you see before you is not one your brain recognizes. You've never seen it before in this way. You're not prepared necessarily to even feel the energies that are emanating from here that come from all directions. The reality of it is not in the playbook of life. It's not something you were told is necessarily even possible. And therefore, for some, you run through all of the logic processes and the intellectualizing. What else could it be besides what my partner says it is? Some will say, well, he's in touch with his subconscious. Others will say he's in touch with his higher self. Others will say he's faking it. And that, my dear human being, is the beauty of free choice. Spirit has put this messenger here today to do nothing but give you benevolent and loving messages. That's all we're doing today. To bring to you a package that maybe you didn't expect. One that doesn't tell you what to do, doesn't inform you you're doing anything wrong, but wants to sit and love you. And in that we ask to go beyond the reality of what you don't know. Time after time we have sat in these moments of what has called mini channelings for just a moment with some of the most profound energy of any channels, where we state simply, is it real or is it not? It tempers the rest of the day. For what is coming, I have asked my partner to put together to show you the benevolence of the physics of God. The explanations coming your way today will show you how the Creator and the consciousness of humanity is one, if you want it to be. And that the only thing that separates you and God is you. What do you think so far? It's the man in the chair. And if that's all it is, dear one, there's no There is no judgment of this by us to you. There just isn't. You are one with us. You are family forever. You're here on this planet for an instant with a veil between us. And that is so you have free choice, something we do not have. God is God. You might say God is biased in love. And you have free choice. And if you should make the choice through discernment, through energy, through logic, and come to the conclusion that you are part of the creative source, and maybe there's something more inside you than just corporealness. If you came to that conclusion and started to awaken into a bigger truth, if you did, what you don't know is that particular action connects you in ways you don't know to a source that changes the entire galaxy. The more of you this happens to, the greater the whole knows it. A premise which is beyond your imagination or your reality. And so what are you going to do? And the answer is you don't have to do anything. You can sit and enjoy the day in the box that you create for yourself that says, like my partner used to have, I only believe what I see, not what I feel. The box is going to keep you from feeling anything, and you'll be safe if you don't want to. Very safe. If you're not here to feel, stay in your box. But for those of you who would open it even for a moment to the possibility that the box is enormous and that there are things you don't know that might be real, if you could acknowledge just that, you don't know what they are, you don't necessarily believe in that, but what if there were things bigger than you were told? As the box opens, we respond. We, the creative source, which is family to you, benevolent, in love with you, will respond to your request because you open the box and we start showing you that there's more. Now, I know who's here. Family, I know who's here. I know what you've been through. I know your lives. I know what you brought today. I know your frustrations. I've seen your tears. I've danced with you when you danced. I've cried with you when you cried, because I am one with you and I am family, and there are those here who are still crying because something's going on. I know who's here. And I want to tell you, if you'll open your box, dear human being, there's going to be help. You don't even know how much help there can be. Let's turn the tears into dancing. This day, there can be healing in this room if you think it's real or not. I know who's here. Old souls are here. An old soul has been defined as those who have an enormous Akashic record, some from the beginning. Thousands of lives on this planet gathering wisdom in both genders. You all have been there and done that. And there isn't anything, really, you haven't been through. You want to describe ways of dying? This group knows them all. You want to know ways of living? This group has done them all. You're from all over the planet. Your Akash is deep and rich with experience. I know who's here. With that kind of wisdom, there's no reason for frustration when you have the ability to connect like you can. This is a new energy, dear ones. My partner will tell you, if you haven't heard it. All over earth there have been predictions about this moment. And the old soul is the one who can best open and use the energy we have. Where is your box now? We'll be back. We're going to be back to discuss more of a beautiful love story.
Okay, so, what a very full day, yes? Full and resonant day. Did you feel those things that you were thinking and feeling about and wanting answers for to come in and give yourself that, yes, I knew that, yeah, good. So let's end the evening in that place of gratitude for all that we have and all that we are, for this human experience. So just take a moment to breathe into that expanded state of awareness of who you are. So much more than these physical containers. So much more than the limited thinking processes. Coming from the all that is to the one place of I am. I am divine. I am magnificent. I am sacred. I am here in this energy, this day, to receive the love and the experience of family. The experience of being held in the arms of Spirit, being supported by the love and the light of the divine, being cared for by those who create this day for us and those who help us be here. And how blessed we are to be able to sit in the chair and receive the unconditional, beautiful, divine acceptance and honoring from our friend, our angel, our guide, Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I pause a moment. My partner steps away fully. The process of channeling is one that should be practiced by the individual who is doing it, to allow for the highest clarity, so that the message will not be filtered, biased, changed. I've told my partner not to read other channeling, not to participate in other metaphysical books, so that there are no ideas implanted there that would fester, perhaps influence, perhaps filter, perhaps the integrity of God. All of this so that what gets to you is as good as it can be. Tonight, I want it to be as good as it can be. The last few channelings from around the world have been filled with information. The way things work, the way things are going, advice, acknowledgement of those in front of me. This particular channeling tonight will be shorter than most, but hopefully for you it might be the most profound you've heard. I want to give you a love story. I want to give you a love story that'll change your life forever. It goes far beyond any information we are going to give you that might wow you in its profundity, in its change, in its prophecy. I want to tell you who God is. To some, this may seem to be a review. It isn't. It's an enhancement of our relationship, human being. First, I am Kryon. This is the name for you in these years. I have had many names, all of them angelic, on many planets. I have never been in human form. I am in awe of the process. The compassion of God shows through me in the emotion of the body of my partner. I bring you information and truth. In that, I bring you tonight the truth of love for you. You are not unknown to us, to me. And through the eons that this has been part of the system, I have done this, and done this, and done this. And when a civilization passes that marker, which it cannot return to, the love of God starts to be increased and far more noticeable. We told you years ago, it has become a slogan that you are never alone. We have tried to enforce it and re-enhance it. We've repeated it. We've given you metaphors of it. We've told you to challenge that statement. Go into the closet. Shut the door. We're still there. We've had to do this because the singularity of your bias as a human being craves that which you do not feel. Company. Partnership. The embrace of someone who would love you and care for you. Perhaps a mother-father feeling. And we've had to do this because in the old energy, what kept you from feeling us was old energy. And now you begin to shift. Light worker, the biggest issue and challenge that you have is lack of self-worth. We've given you channels of it, the whys of it, the reasons for it. How bizarre it may seem that the oldest of souls on the planet are feeling unworthy. And that's about to shift. I'll give you proof. I want you to look at the children and tell me if they feel unworthy. In fact, one of the attributes of the children recently is that some say they are too worthy. They feel headstrong because they have awakened knowing they're not alone. Did you figure that out? The love that we have for you is beginning to change the template of humanity. And what I want to tell you, old soul, is that you're going to be here for a long time and you don't have to have rebirth in order to feel what the kids are feeling. if you're willing, if you understand, if you put out your hand, metaphorically, we can change your template. And the worthiness that you have been lacking due to the Akashic record of thousands of lifetimes in an old energy will begin to change. As the self-worth changes in a human being, goes health. Did you know it was related? The better you feel about yourself and your place on the planet and in the galaxy, the taller you stand and the longer you're going to live. Because the cells in your body know it. And they listen to that which is the consciousness of you, saying, I deserve to be here. I am what I didn't used to be. Confident spiritually in my place here. Looking forward to the light that is new here. Battling the old energy and winning here. That is a love affair I have with you. Spirit has with you the gift of the century. It took a long time for life to start on the planet. The love that we have was manifest literally in the physics of creation. Evolution was controlled so completely and so put off to the last moment to allow humans to grow and be the only planet of free choice at this time in the galaxy. Loved beyond measure, with souls collected from all over to start a test that was beautiful. That is love. Last night we told you of the system of reincarnation that is starting to shift and change. The actual attributes of the human soul are evolving. The human soul. I didn't say the soul. What is changing is the human part of the soul. That is, your relationship as a human to spirit is changing. It is beginning to evolve and morph into something which is complex, and we have seen it over and over. And this morphing and this complexity is going to bring you into a sweeter place where you know who you are because God loves you enough to start putting these things into the family in a way that you've never seen before. You're going to feel this, and you're going to know we're here. There'll come a time when I never have to say, you're never alone, because you know it. And you'll go into that closet and you'll call her name because you know it. And there'll be no such thing as unworthiness of an old soul because you'll know it. This is human evolution. And the old soul is at the forefront of this. We're actually changing the system of how you operate in an esoteric way. The profundity of the Akash is starting to change. You're getting connected to things which you would never be connected to in a survival energy. Dear ones, when you're running from the Bengal tiger, we're not going to tell you the intricacies of your Akash. Does this make sense to you? There has to be a graduation, and there has been, of consciousness to a sweet place where you're beginning to ask, who am I? What do I need to know? What's next? What should I do? And the answers are going to come because you're not alone. Because you're not alone. The karmic system of the planet was only for low consciousness. Imagine a consciousness so low that when you came into the planet, you had to have an attachment of energy to push you to unfinished business. You couldn't even feel it through the Akash. There was a wall. You called it a veil. It wasn't a veil. It was a wall. Now it's a veil, and a thin one, if you want it to be. This is a love story of the creative source and the human being. You're going to wake up and discover your spiritual parents have always been with you in the form of the creative source. There'll be those who say, I want to be loved, adored, held, and you will be. Literally carried in the hands of God from one place to another as you live your life, with the angels whispering in your ear that you're loved. And so you won't worry. And you'll know there is a bigger purpose for the things that you see on the news, and you won't worry. Perhaps you can take action in consciousness, but you won't worry. There's a difference. Perhaps you'll take action in compassion when you see those who are suffering in another part of the world, and you'll know it's making a difference. That's an old soul who's not worried, but acting. Acting on it. Compassionate action changes this planet. Your reaction to the things around you, old soul, will no longer be fear. You won't see things that will push you backwards. Your whole consciousness will be to see things and have compassionate action. And the biggest decisions you'll have is what kind of compassionate action to have. There are no problems. Every time you look at these things, you will count the solutions. Because that is a wise old soul. Dear human being, I'll say it again, there isn't anything you haven't seen. There isn't anything. Thousands of lifetimes as a human being. I'll say it again. You've had everything happen. From the worst things you can imagine to the best. And every single one of them is there for you in your Akash as a well of wisdom, knowledge, and experience to draw upon no matter what happens from here on in your life. And that creates a balanced human being who feels the love of God every moment of the day. That's the love story. And all I'm going to say to you at this point is, are you ready for it? Will you allow it? Because there is an old energy bastion of thought that will create a bubble around you that says, if I haven't seen it, it doesn't exist. And I invite you to change that idea. Get ready for things you don't know about or don't believe in. Don't restrict the love that is going to come into your life by the greatest source of love there is. Don't restrict it by what you don't think can happen. Somebody's come for a healing today. Did you hear that? Because you can walk out of this place and you can shake your head and say, well, I didn't feel anything. I don't know that that was right. What else can I try? And you missed the point. As the angels circle you, asking, are you ready for what you came for? The time for you to surrender is now. And you're not surrendering to God, you're surrendering to old energy thought in you that would keep you from magnificence. That's the best love story I could ever give you. That's it. It doesn't really get any better than that. And that's why you're here, old soul. And that's what can happen. That is the evolution of the new human being. I am Kryon in love with you. And for good reason.